Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilter 7 in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. Today's episode, number 78, is piecing efficiency. But before we get to that, two quick things. First, my apologies for spelling moonkin stitchery incorrectly. I missed the N and made it a moo instead of a moon, and I am very sorry. Please accept my apologies. Number two is, please make a sample block before you make a whole quilt. I have here a ginormous quilt that my customer made and brought in for quilting. We're going to show you a picture closer up, but every single one of the points are cut off on the squares. And she came in and she said, they didn't allow for the seam allowance. I asked to see the pattern. She didn't have it with her. She promises me she'll show it to me. I don't know if it was user error or if the pattern was actually wrong. But either way, if you make one sample block and you see that those pieces are being cut off, you can look at it, find out if it's a pattern problem or you did something wrong. This quilt is, I think, 90 by 96. Lots and lots of blocks. She's really disappointed, but since it's her adult son, she figures he's not going to notice. And by now, you've put all this time and effort into it. You kind of have to finish it. But at any rate, once again, please make a sample block to avoid issues like this. Now, let's get to the episode. We have touched on this before, piecing efficiency. What do I mean by piecing efficiency? In my opinion, you should make your units with the least amount of pieces, with the least seams as possible. Why do you want to do that? To me, for first and foremost, is less bulk. It's one of the issues we have. When many seams meet, you get more bulk and your quilt doesn't lie flat. There's all kinds of products out there to try to help us get our seams to be flat. If we have less seams, we have less seams to try to make flat. Less important than the bulk, but also in there, you use less fabric. If you have less fabric in the seams, you obviously use less of it. Takes you less time. Time to me is not so much an issue because to me you shouldn't be racing through a project. You should be enjoying doing it, but why waste time? Less time pressing, less time cutting, and less weight. If you have a big quilt and you have lots of extra seams in it, it gets very heavy very quickly. So those are reasons why we want to approach our quilt making with piecing efficiency. Now, we've talked about this before, and even just last week, 2 different construction methods of the same block. Now I'm drilling down to the units because these units that we're going to show you are used in many different blocks. So just as I've said before, read your pattern, look at it, see if it tells you to do something a certain way that you think should be done a different way, that you can do it better. You want to do the same thing with the individual units that make up the block. Here's my first example. I have seen, and it's not real often, but it's often enough that I'm bringing it up, that they take 2 half square triangles and put them together like this, and that's actually just a flying goose or geese. I'm not sure which is the proper way to say it. But here you have 3 pieces and 2 seams. Here you have 4 pieces and 3 seams. Now, obviously, if these 2 are not the same fabric, then turning it into a flying geese goose doesn't work. but I have seen it enough times where this is the same fabric that it's worth pointing out. If your pattern tells you to do that, you could look at that and say, well, rather than doing half square triangles, I'm going to do flying geese. This one we've also talked about before. 4 half square triangles put together like this, where this is all the same fabric. Well, that's just 1 square in a square unit. The example I showed you in a previous episode, we had a beautiful floral fabric in here, and here it was all cut up. Here you could see the whole flower. You could fussy cut designs and put them in here. If they're here, they're all going to be mush-mashed. So to me, again, this is 8 pieces, 8 seams. This is 5 pieces, 4 seams. So it's always, going to be less bulk to do less pieces, less seams. Let's move on to some more examples. Here are some more examples, and these units, different people call different names. So I'll try to mention a few of them, but I'm sure there's more names than I know. This is what Deb Tucker calls the V block. It's also been known as peaky and spike. It's also known as triangle and a square. And we've also shown this one before, where somebody took 2 V blocks and put them together like this, and that actually equals a diamond rect. And that's the name of that Deb Tucker uses. You may know it as a diamond in a rectangle. But again, 6 pieces, let's see how many seams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seams versus 5 pieces and 4 seams. And really, why would you want to make 2 units and sew them together when you can make 1 unit? It's logical to me to do the 1 unit. The next one I want to show you is the split rects, and this is the one that spurred me to talk about this today. I was watching one of the videos this past week, and they were using the Creative Grids half rectangle and ruler, and the woman took 2 what I call split rects, can be half rectangles, whatever you want to call them, and she put them together like this. Well, this is exactly 1 V block. So here again, you're making 2 units when you can make 1. You've got 3 seams, 4 pieces versus 3 pieces, 2 seams. Again, this just makes more sense to me. I don't know about you. I'd love to hear if you have any comments on why you'd prefer the more pieces, more seams method. Because if there is a reason, I'm just not aware of it. The last one I want to show you today is 4 split rects, which actually is a combination of the 2 above. So if you're going to make 2 split rects into a V block, why wouldn't you take 4 split rects, put them together, and make them into 1 diamond rects? Well, again, this doesn't make sense to me, and that you're making 4 pieces to make 1. Look at all the seams here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seams, 8 pieces versus 5 pieces, 4 seams. So, in conclusion, you really need to read your pattern before you decide to even make it, or you want to make it, but you want to make it a better way. So, I say patterns are like recipes. Some are really well written and some are really poorly written, and there's everything in between. So I urge you to read instructions and decide if you want to do your construction method the way that the pattern maker said to. Because very, very often, you may have a better way to do it. That's my episode today. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, happy sewing.